China and Russia are cozying up right now today. What does this all mean? I'm going to bring that to you. You got to understand when the leader of China meets the leader of Russia, we've got to pay attention, not just if we're in these countries, but it affects everybody. And then I want to talk about what's happening with Chinese gold demand. And let me give you a little hint, it surged again. We will also be looking at what I would consider, the time in which the US was the Middle East power broker. It looks like that's coming to an end. So all of these things are highlighted here in this video. If you stick with me, we're going to be able to get into it all. The first article for today is talking about the leader of China and Russia meeting up, as well as the second article here, because you probably saw different articles being written about it and different videos being passed around. This is really important, okay? This is not the first time they've met up. A few things were discussed and other things that were not resolved, and we'll look at that. It's really key to realize how close these two countries have become. Maybe they weren't so friendly years ago, but now, just like their relationship, there's also a lot of other countries around the world, whether it's through, some sort of beneficial agreement or whether it's through necessity, they've started to cozy up to China. And China is willing to say, hey, sure, let's do business. Why not? A lot of these countries, they're being sanctioned. They physically cannot use the US system. Look at Iran, completely sanctioned, head to toe. They have nothing. So they say, okay, Russia, what can we do? China, what can we do? Even if they weren't friends before, suddenly they say, hey, let's do business. So that's what's going on right now. You got to understand, it's not, many people get it confused in their head, out of necessity in many of these cases. And so they're going to build and forge relationships that are extremely important and will grow as the years go on economically and politically. And no two countries are more important right now to watch than China and Russia. And you could see that the two of them meeting up, they pledged to shape a new world order. And that, my friends, is massive. It is truly massive, because it really signifies they want to do without the United States. In fact, not that they want to wipe them off the earth. They didn't say that, of course, but what they suggested was we want a multipolar world. So there are, good things happening here, good things happening there, and that's okay. It's not just one country in control of it all, and that's the end of that. Now, is the United States going to lay there and take it? Probably not. They're going to continue to push. And one of the things that the US has done has been, Russia, they've been sanctioning and all that. But with China, you see, because China hasn't outrightly given, weapons to Russia and so on, the US has been giving to Ukraine, obviously, in other ways. But what we've seen is they have tried to put the boot on the throat of China by not allowing them to have the newest semiconductor technology. And that's a big one. When you look at it, semiconductors are in everything. Literally everything today has it. Your dishwasher has it. Your stove has it. All the appliances suddenly have it. I'm pretty sure they probably put one in my brain. Who knows? But the point is that without the latest technology, they can't advance as far. That's the point, right? That's what they're doing. And they, not only the US, not only are they doing this, but they've also got Netherlands and Japan to get on board. So other countries are joining in as well, saying, hey, you don't want China being at the top, right? Well, we got to do this. So that's one of the aspects right here that's been going on. And you see it building and building and building. It's not so good, right? You could see that China has basically backed Russia on Ukraine, but holds out on Russian gas pipeline. Leaders of China and Russia hold centerpiece talks in Moscow. That came through. Like I said, you probably saw some of those videos where they're shaking hands, saying bye, all that. One of the things that I thought was important was a quote that has been passed around, and essentially saying that we haven't seen these changes, what they intend on doing, what they're doing right now. We haven't seen these changes in 100 years. So they're making it very clear that their partnership is historic. It's not just, hey, let's sign a couple documents and let's get through it all. No, that really isn't the case. And we're seeing that right now. Okay? A positive role, objective, unbiased position on Putin's invasion. So they're making it clear that they're staying out of it. They're not going to get involved in Ukraine. That's what they're saying. Now, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, all these different things, but that's what they're saying. So we look at it and realize that this could very well escalate. At the same time, I think it's a teaching tool for China to see how all of this is going down because of what they want with Taiwan. Always keep that in mind, right? And we look at this one here, it's just showing us Putin, we are in favor of using the Chinese yuan for settlements between Russia and the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. I am confident that these forms of settlement in yuan will develop between Russian partners and their counterparts in third countries. You see, they're making it clear. This is not high. This is not some, oh yeah, right, they're going to do it. They're doing it. They are actually doing it right now at this time. It is big. There's a lot of trade that happens between these countries. So don't think that this is something that, oh yeah, it's probably just a couple bucks. It's big news, no question. And all the different agencies wrote about this, and you could see it. I'm not gonna, keep telling you over and over again. You could see this. Change is not seen for 100 years. Yes, we've got that already. And essentially, their friendship, which, it's relatively new, it is a test for how the United States is going to deal with it. Are they going to actually push them further into each other? Like, I think that the more pressure that the U.S. puts on both sides, you're making them friends. That's what you're doing. You're forcing them to be friends in a sense. And that's long-term not a good idea. I think there should be more peace. I think there should be more talks. I think there should be more economic benefits for both sides. But military-industrial complex doesn't win when that happens. That's just the way it works, right? All right. Now, if you see what has happened over the last little while in the Gulf region, you look also with China, Russia, Iran, and when we start to break it down, you realize this is very different than what we looked at from the 90s into the early 2000s and so on, where the United States basically controlled all of the Middle East. So many different things are happening, and I wanted to show you right here. China, Russia, Iran hold joint naval drills in the Gulf of Oman. And here, same situation, just the video that goes along with that. And yeah, I think it's extremely important to see this. It just tells us that they want to do more business. They want to have not just economic relationships between them, but they, at the same time, want this to be, militarily as well. There's more articles written about that. I think is really, really key because it shows you here the drills come days after China brokered a surprise diplomatic deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia that paved the way for renewed political ties between the Gulf rivals after a 7-year freeze. Very positive, very, very good stuff. I'm pleased about that. We need peace. We need that. And you see it. China is uniting the Middle East. I mean, just think, 10 years ago, you never would have thought of that. And here's another one. After Iran and Saudi Arabia to re-establish ties with Syria. Now that's big. One other country, and they're not, the US isn't in between that. They're not helping out. They're not making this happen. You know what happened with Syria. These countries are doing away with the United States as much as possible. I think they see the writing on the wall. And this is a big concern. In my opinion, this is a very big concern about what has happened in the last little while. And there's big changes, big things happening. You could see the age of the US as a Middle East power broker is over. Big stuff, right? I mean, I just highlighted that, and I'm not going to go into more detail, but that really sends a signal for the US dollar and the future of the world. I'm not saying that the US is going to disappear, but perhaps its power it once was able to wield is no longer there. So when we see what's going on economically, there's a lot that goes into this. And China is doing so many different things that we've seen with other central banks. Other central banks are tightening. Other central banks are going into more constrictive and restrictive policy. China, on the other hand, it's a different story. Let me show you something. You could see the reserve ratio requirements, RRR rates, that have basically been declining for years. They've been bringing these down for literally years. And they do this because they want to pump up their system, get more loans, more debt, more business booming. And you do that using debt. The less that these banks have to hold in reserves, the more they can lend out. That's a simple matter of fact. And China is actively encouraging the banks to do that. Gold demand continued to surge in February. The claim here is, it's twofold, really. Number one, healthy consumption amid economic recovery and the release of the pent-up demand, as well as retailers restocking after the New Year holiday. So people go out there, they're buying gold and so on, and now they're refilling on the business side. You have this as well, Credit Suisse. By the way, Credit Suisse shouldn't even be saying anything, but Saudi Arabia and Qatar set to lose big after the UBS deal. I wish that this would just all disappear, this whole situation, but that's where they are at. Saudi Arabia and Qatar are not liking what's happening here because their funds are owning this company and they're going to lose on the bonds, perhaps. They're going to lose on the transaction overall. So not everybody is happy about what's going on here, and we have to see. A lot of these countries have really made really big investments into things outside of their own country. You look at, Saudi Arabia and what they have done. They've got their own things going on, but it's just very different than what was there years before. They've made so many different investments with, Formula One, I think. They've got their own golf tour. They've got the whole soccer thing happening bigger than before. Qatar is doing, similar things. And that shows us that things are changing. What was happening in the 90s, in 2000s, this is not the same situation. That's what I'm trying to highlight here. I hope I was able to do that for you today. If you appreciate this information, you've got to tune in each and every day. I bring you the latest and greatest. In fact, if you want to get the latest and greatest all the time, you got to join my list. That's themoneygps.com. Scroll down to the bottom. You get the list, the insiders list, which is totally free, and you get the video of the day emailed directly to you for free. Themoneygps.com. Scroll down to the bottom, fill in your email, and you get the video of the day. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.